They were waiting outside the factory gate for a taxi. Before that, they had been hiding in the electrician's closet, drinking. The boss, neck-deep in work, didn't manage to catch them, but by the end of the day they'd apparently had enough courage water to stop hiding at all, talking loudly, giggling, celebrating the well-timed paycheck that had just dropped onto their cards. The party was in full swing. They were our electrician Gosha and his life partner Oksana. Still young, both in their early 40s, but their faces told another story, as if Gosha and Oksana had been forced to drink wine every single day. Bloated, worn-out faces, glazed-over eyes, greasy hair, unkempt and stale. Gosha's belly hung out under his shirt. No one cared about Gosha. Guys like him are a dime a dozen in the provinces. Millennium leftovers, they're called. Some made it, some invested smart, some worked their butts off when oil money flowed, and some just drifted along like, well, something unpleasant in an ice hole. Gosha drank. In trade school, in the army, after the army, before marriage, after marriage. He liked it. It was his choice. And a person's choice is sacred. His first wife, Arishka, not much to look at or brag about, realized it was a dead end. A daughter was growing up. Was she supposed to watch her drunk dad all her life? And Arishka herself? Should she rot in a crumbling apartment with peeling wallpaper and a constant smell of alcohol in the walls? Hell no. She packed up and moved back to her mother, despite her sobbing. How will you raise a child alone without a man? Perfectly fine. A year later, she married a simple guy who accepted her daughter like his own. Now they live in comfort and peace, tending a garden and humming little songs. The daughter gave them grandkids, happy. Turns out life worked out just fine. Without Gosha. And he didn't disappear either. Tried moving in with various lonely women, but was quickly kicked out. These days, no one wants a mess like that stinking up their clean little apartment. Married or not married means nothing now. Gosha didn't mind. He lived alone and thought, nice. No nagging, no whining, nothing stopping me from drinking. He was predictable. But how did Oksana end up with him? Oksana, the pride of the school, of the whole town, a student, a Komsomol girl, a beauty. One look at her bloated, ruined face made it clear. One tragic story. Galia Matrosova, the dispatcher, barely recognized her, politely said hi. Oksana nodded back. After one last cigarette for the road, she climbed into the taxi, they were splurging, and left with Gosha. Galia shook her head. Rags. Gosha would show up tomorrow with a massive hangover. How does he get away with everything? And why does he earn a decent salary? Life's unfair. Yet Galia had once envied Oksana, even, let's admit it, wished her ill. Since childhood, Galia had C's and B's. Kshusha had straight A's. Galia had no father, while Kshusha had the perfect dad. And he had a huge bus. He used it to take the whole class on hikes and field trips to Leningrad. He played the accordion, made bonfires, cooked stew in a bucket, sang, danced, and led school games. The moms adored Kshusha's dad and envied her mom bitterly. So lucky. Not even pretty, and she bagged that guy. Galia's mom would say to Sasha's mom over a cup of tea. Sasha's mom would visit to chat. Galia was sent to bed while they chatted. Once, going to the bathroom, Galia overheard them. Then Sasha's mom whispered something, and both women giggled. No way! I'm telling you. Galia's ears burned. She crawled back to bed, her chest tight with resentment. Even her mom didn't get lucky. But she, Galia, was way prettier than Kshusha's mom. And still no dad. Never had one. Years passed. Galia grew up, so did Shusha. It was the age of crushes and exam anxiety. Shusha moved to Leningrad, now St. Petersburg, and breezed through university entrance. Her dad stopped driving buses and began importing cars from Norway. The family's fortune soared. Kjusha's washed-out mom now strutted around town in furs and high-end makeup. Galia's mom scrubbed school floors after getting laid off. That New Year's Eve is etched in memory. The food, beet salad, one herring, fried bread with herring paste, amazing chicken aspic, and cabbage pies. Galia's mom made a feast from nothing and stretched the rest of the money for 2 more weeks. Galia was thrilled with orange slices and a chocolate bar neatly cut into squares. What a new year! Until Aunt Sveta, Sasha's mom, dragged them both to a party. Kshusha's mom invited us, and there, at the washed-out moth's place, was a real celebration. A glowing tree, fancy food, the hostess in silk and gold, music playing from a Panasonic. Galia greeted the adults and Oksana politely, and oh my God, Oksana then. Tall, slim, in trendy jeans, an amazing blouse, spiral curls, perfectly done makeup. Her eyes barely registered Galia's patched-up tights. Galia wanted to vanish. She looked at her mom and Aunt Sveta. They were wolfing down caviar canapes. Oksana's dad, with a mocking look, poured them each a glass of cognac and called out, "Bottoms up, ladies!" The ladies squealed and drank it all, and immediately got drunk. Then started shamelessly flirting with Shusha's dad, ignoring his wife. Galia turned crimson. The washed-out moth didn't look washed out at all. She coolly flicked ash from her long cigarette and muttered to a stylish woman nearby, "Seryoja always gets philanthropic. Got the village girls drunk, and now he's enjoying it. Just wait. He'll send 'em home with food bags for the poor. Lord, what pathetic creatures." Galia sat at the table, dying from humiliation. The posh guests were openly mocking them, and the ladies, her mom and Sveta, didn't even notice. They laughed, shrieked, just like those silly women in Soviet comedies. Oksana, in a perfect pose, one leg crossed, slender hand resting on the armchair, her bracelet glittering in the tree lights, grew bored. She stood up lightly. "Mommy, I'm heading out. Almost midnight. My girls are waiting." The moth smiled warmly. "Kshunya, maybe take Galia with you? She's clearly out of place here." Oksana lazily glanced at Galia. "Well, no one knows her there. Fine. Galia, want to come to the party?" Galia looked questioningly at the moth. She shrugged and briefly closed her satin-covered eyelids. Her mom's lids were wrinkled with eyeshadow clumps. Her dainty earrings swayed. "Don't worry. We'll take your mom and Sveta home. Let them enjoy themselves. You call when you're done. Make sure nothing happens, okay?" "Okay." Once outside in the biting cold, Oksana stepped away and asked dully about Galia's studies. Galia didn't feel like talking, nothing to brag about. Sewing tech school, not exactly a dream, and she didn't want to go meet Oksana's friends at all. It would be like the adults' party. Soft lights, trendy girls, rich boys, brand-name clothes, talk of Paris and makeup, and maybe they'd mock her too, like her mom was mocked. Suddenly, Galia turned toward her yard. "Where are you going?" asked Oksana. "Home. I've got no business at your party. Not my level," Galia snapped. Oksana shrugged like a tired mom. "Suit yourself. Doesn't matter to me." They walked off in different directions for the next 10 years. What happened next? Well, 10 years later? Nothing particularly special if those 10 years were lived by Galia. She got a profession, found a job, and then married her Matrosov. Boring, banal, unremarkable, and Matrosov himself was boring, banal, and unremarkable. Why go through all that fuss? It wasn't clear. Even at the wedding, Galia was ready to get up and leave. Matrosov humbly accepted congratulations, obediently kissed the bride under the traditional shouts of bitter. His breath reeked of garlic because Galina's mother had the brilliant idea to place a bowl of garlic salad right next to the newlyweds. The guests celebrated the best they could, and her mother was among them. At the time, like most matrons over 40, she wore a hideous tight perm, a sequined blouse, and a pleated skirt. These days, it's hard to tell how old a woman is, 30 or 50, but back then, everyone seemed to believe firmly. After 30, life is over. Only children matter. So she rejoiced for her child, married off. All was well. Now she could focus on the garden and grandchildren, not herself, and she envisioned the same future for her daughter. And Galia felt like she'd never escape this cursed loop: home, work, home, cooking, laundry, cleaning, homework. All normal, just like everyone else. Stability. No flights of fancy, no wild swings, no hundreds of roses, no madness or furious heartbeats. Why did she need a family? Galia met Oksana in the city on her way home from work. It was a payday holiday. Galia was splurging, bought a cake, little toys for the kids, a fresh T-shirt for her husband. Her bags were loaded with groceries, tastier cheese, good sausage, meat. She trudged toward the kindergarten to pick up the kids straight from the playground and avoid the hassle of digging through cubbies for socks and tights. She anticipated a peaceful evening with the children, Matrosov, and a new Russian soap opera. Finally, she was sick of the Brazilian ones 5 years ago. Her route passed the restaurant Rus, a decent place. On holidays, Galina allowed herself to treat the family to ice cream and milkshakes there. A brand-new foreign car rolled up to the restaurant. Out stepped, posing even, Oksana. The car beeped shut. Oksana tossed the keys into her purse. Her sleek, blonde with silver hair, didn't even turn toward Galia's direction. Galia sighed in relief. She didn't want her former classmate to recognize her. Her hair was sweaty and clinging to her skull. Her mascara likely clumped in the corners of her eyes, her lipstick smudged. She didn't even want to imagine what kind of look Oksana would give her, and thank goodness she didn't notice her. Fresh, fragrant, wearing a perfectly fitting sundress on her golden shoulders, light as an elven princess. She disappeared behind the ornate restaurant doors. Galina walked on. She glanced at the restaurant's mirrored window and saw a ragged little mouse with shopping bags. A gray, unremarkable mouse in a size 52 housewife dress. Sweaty, pitiful mouse. Oksana appeared again at the school reunion. Galia hadn't wanted to go, but the former class president Urka had called several times insisting it would be a grand banquet to celebrate the school's anniversary. Galia gave in. She went on a diet, got a decent haircut, and bought a nice gray pantsuit. It looked good on her. Even Matrosov, usually laconic, said, "Not bad, looks good on you." So she went, and was surprised how everyone had aged and relaxed. She was one of many. A normal woman with a good life. Wonderful kids, a good husband. Look at Sanya Yegorov. Once such a guy now. Red eyes, missing teeth, disheveled, drinking non-stop, not even touching the food. And the food was great. Sushi, shrimp, fresh salads, real juice, expensive champagne. Clearly not a school cafeteria budget. Yegorov, just an alcoholic. Wife left, no kids, lost his job. living off his mother, once the golden boy. Now, what a fate! Most of the guys hadn't done well in life, especially the men. Some drank, some were ill, others constantly chasing something better. The girls, more or less okay. Husbands, jobs, kids, cooking, laundry, cleaning, homework. That was fine. Better that than upheaval. In the middle of the banquet, Oksana showed up. No pretense, wearing jeans and a white sweater, her hair carelessly spilled over her shoulders. The simplicity of her look was deceiving. She looked like she walked out of a fashion magazine. One of the teachers personally ran up with a mic. Clearly, they'd been expecting her. Thanked her father for the generous banquet, praised the respect shown to the older generation, ohs and ahs. Ah, of course, Daddy Sergey came through, climbed the ranks from driver to owning a transport company, knew how to live and let others live. Matrosov worked as a driver at his agency. Tough to get in, but still, a job, money in the house. Not much, but not poverty either. One could imagine the golden road paved for Oksana. But she was talented, too. Yes, a girl. Galia was now ma'am in store queues. She didn't even take offense anymore. She had nothing to be offended by. Domestic chores drained so much energy she couldn't spare an extra hour at the mirror. Oksana didn't stay long, chatted with teachers, smiled at the girls, exchanged words with a few guys, had a glass of wine, wished everyone a lovely evening and left, some business to attend to. She glanced at Galia briefly, nodded, and that was it. Galia wasn't a VIP, just a quiet one. What was there to say? Galia felt envy, ugly, bitter. Why was life so unfair? Why did Oksana get everything and she nothing? But some rumors floated around. Not everything was rosy in Oksana's world. Sure, she had it all, except love. 2 marriages, both failed. The first husband from St. Petersburg left her after 3 years for another woman. Oksana took it hard, almost ended her life. Her pride wouldn't let her accept it. The second husband also left, suddenly, when all seemed fine. They had a house in Crete, traveled, good life. One day, Oksana came home from her job. She managed one of her father's firms and found everything gone, even jewelry. The bastard, that broke her. Why? Maybe because of the lack of children, though would her freeloaders have cared? Oksana drove herself crazy, obsessed over having a child, prayed, treated herself. No use. Probably overwhelmed the men with her suffering until they ran. I still envy her, said Urka suddenly. She had drunk too much champagne and was saying whatever popped into her head. The classmates exchanged glances and shushed her. Oh, shut up, idiots. Urka poured another drink. That woman's rolling in money, and you pity her? She could buy a dozen kids. Stop pretending to be saints. Ugh, disgusting. And Galia felt Ira was right. She always spoke the truth. That's why she was class president. People didn't like her for it, but she was real. Indeed, what's the tragedy? Men left, no kids. So what? Buy men, adopt kids? With money, you can get cherubic angels. Galia realized Oksana's tragedy wasn't understood by anyone. No one. Only Urka had the courage to say it aloud. A few more years passed. Galia no longer complained about life. Everything had settled. The kids grew up into good people. She was proud. Her husband? Actually, a wonderful man. Boring? Not at all. Just quiet, but reliable, loving. He never raised a hand, never insulted her, always took care of her and the kids. And Galia remembered how she wanted to leave him, how she argued with her mother over love will come later. But her mother had known. and she always called her son-in-law affectionately Shurik, Sasha. She spoiled him, and he cared for her. Everything was wonderful in Gallia's life, and she finally asked herself, why had she ever envied Oksana? She genuinely felt sorry for her. The once mysterious, beautiful Oksana, probably now standing in Gosha's dirty little house, rinsing cloudy glasses, watching him pour vodka, drinking. Again, what happened to her? Why Gosha? Why this life? Her parents were long gone. Without their support, was she nothing? Maybe it was karma. But no, Oksana was never taught how. That was the tragedy. Not money, not looks. What Galia and Irka had, real husbands, children, they had never valued. But Oksana never had it, and probably never would. And that was a real tragedy. Galina leaned her forehead against the window pane. Memories and regret burned in her soul. She would have stood there for hours, but the phone rang. Another accident on the highway. She rushed back to her post and called the dispatcher. No fatalities, just wrecked cars. Thank God, Galia whispered and hung up.